So next week, Karen and I will be offering to you the State of the Church address, and we're going to do it much as we did last year, where we're going to be sitting up here having a conversation and letting you overhear it. Hope that sounds like something you'll want to attend. Sounds like fun to me. But for now, we're looking at Psalms. Before we go there, joyful, joyful, we adore thee. That's how the Christian life is supposed to be, right? Listen to this psalm. And we're looking at 42 and 43 together because they are one song. Originally, it's just one work. My sense is that this would not have been a congregational hymn. I don't think. I think this is a song sung by individuals or prayers offered by individuals. And you'll note that the first verse we're going to sing immediately after the sermon. It's our next song. As the deer gets thirsty for streams of water, I truly am thirsty for you, my God. In my heart, I'm thirsty for you, the living God. When will I see your face? Day and night, my tears are my only food, as everyone keeps asking, where is your God? Sorrow floods my heart when I remember leading the worshipers to your house. I can still hear them shout their joyful praises. Then why am I discouraged? Why am I restless? I trust you and I will praise you again because you help me and you are my God. I'm deeply discouraged as I think about you from where the Jordan begins at Mount Hermon and Mount Mizar. Your vicious waves have swept over me like an angry ocean or a roaring waterfall. Every day you're kind, and at night you give me a song. As my prayer to you, the living Lord God, you are my mighty rock. Why have you forgotten me? Why must enemies mistreat me and make me sad? Even my bones are in pain. While all day long my enemies sneer and ask, where is your God? Why am I discouraged? Why am I restless? I trust you, and I will praise you again because you help me and you are my God. Show that I'm right, God. Defend me against everyone who doesn't know you. Rescue me from each of those deceitful liars. I run to you for protection. Why have you turned me away? Why must enemies mistreat me and make me sad? Send your light and your truth to guide me. Let them lead me to your house on your sacred mountain. Then I'll worship you at your altar because you make me joyful. You are my God and I'll praise you. Yes, I'll praise you as I play my harp. Why am I discouraged? Why am I restless? I trust you and I will praise you again because you help me and you are my God. It's quite the psalm, isn't it? I was first introduced to this psalm in Martin Marty's book, A Cry of Absence. He wrote that in the early 1980s. Martin Marty was the professor of church history at the University of Chicago, world-renowned. He wrote the book to document his struggle with depression. And he used this psalm to talk about what depression felt like. That it feels like, oh God, you are my rock, and where have you gone? Quite the remarkable psalm. But it's about depression. You look at verse 3, where the psalmist says that the only thing he can eat are tears. Verse 5, it's the phrase repeated 3 times. Why am I discouraged? Why am I restless? I enjoy verse 9, where the psalmist expressed trust in God and then complained to God about God's absence. From my experience, this psalmist is depressed. Now, depression is nothing new. Evidently, it's been around as long as humanity. It used to be that depressed people were understood to be demon-possessed. And so, the good church people of the day would take drills and cut holes in their skull to let the demons out. Yowzers. Or the church would perform exorcisms, casting out the demons. Depression's been understood to be an emotional weakness. You know, if you were stronger, if you just buck it up, you could get out of this funk that you're in. It's been understood to be a spiritual failure. You know what? If you had more faith, if you were a better Christian, then you wouldn't be depressed. I am so fortunate to be living in a time when we understand that depression is caused by the imbalance of 3 brain hormones: serotonin, dopamine, and epinephrine. And now, these days, we have medication that can bring things back into balance. I've been told that depression has a close cousin by the name of chronic pain. I've been told that if you have chronic pain and don't think you're depressed, you are kidding yourself, because they go together. And there is an interesting studies being done these days about clergy and depression. Yesterday, I again ran across this figure that 70% of clergy struggle with depression. That 47% had a depressive episode that caused them to take a break from the pulpit. Wow. Half? Can that be right? And I don't know, but I have a good friend living here who served a couple of really tough pastorates and has been so destroyed by depression that he has to have a therapy dog everywhere he goes. And I think I know why. It's because clergy often find themselves caught between the call of God and the reality of the congregation. And sometimes living in that tension can be pretty rough. No one should be too embarrassed about being depressed. You know, the list of people who suffered from depression gets really long. Did you know John Adams, 2nd President of the United States, suffered from depression? Actor Alan Alda, Hawkeye Pierce, suffers from depression. Astronaut Buzz Aldrin. The writer Isaac Asimov. The list goes on and on. How about Robin Williams? The funniest man I've ever seen suffered from depression. Winston Churchill referred to his depression as the black dog that followed him everywhere. I personally think that Charlie Brown was depressed. I recently ran across a cartoon of Charlie Brown laying in bed saying, "Last night I dreamt that somebody loved me." That's depressed. And what about Eeyore in the Winnie the Pooh series? Don't you think he suffered from depression? There are two people who struggle with depression that I find really interesting. One of those is Vincent van Gogh, who painted the Starry Night that we keep in our baptistry. What a wonderful, creative spirit, and yet he was so depressed that many days he was non-functional. He tried to enter the priesthood, but they wouldn't let him into the seminary because he was too depressed. And the other is Henry Nouwen. I think I've got all of his books sitting on my shelf. What an incredible writer, world-renowned, and yet struggled with depression. He wrote a book about it called The Inner Voice of Love, and he's another one of those who lived before Prozac and the other antidepressants. He wrote this: when all those around me were assuring me they loved me, cared for me, appreciated me, yes, even admired me, I experienced myself as a useless, unloved, and despicable person. Just when people were putting their arms around me, I saw the endless depth of my human misery and felt that there was nothing worth living for. Just when I had found a home, I felt absolutely homeless. Just when I was being praised for my spiritual insights, I felt devoid of faith. Just when people were thanking me for bringing them closer to God, I felt that God had abandoned me. That is depression. If there is any upside to depression, it is that depression is often accompanied by great creativity. Many of the greatest books, the greatest pieces of art, the greatest pieces of music were written by people who suffered from depression. Why those two go together, I do not know. Depression for me feels like a black hole that is sucking me down, that I struggle to escape, but it keeps its grasp on me. There are other psalms about depression. Here's Psalm 38. And in the early service, 9 o'clock service, the guess was that this person also had leprosy. Think of leprosy and depression together. My body hurts all over because of your anger. Even my bones are in pain, and my sins are so heavy I'm crushed. Because of my foolishness, I'm covered with sores that stink and spread. My body is twisted and bent, and I groan all day long. Fever has my back in flames. Wow. You ever felt like your back was in flames? And I hurt all over. I'm worn out and weak, moaning and in distress. You, Lord, know every one of my deepest desires, and my noisy groans are no secret to you. My heart is beating fast. I feel weak all over, and my eyes are red. Because of my sickness, no friends or neighbors will come near me. All who want me dead set traps to catch me, and those who want to harm and destroy me plan and plot all day. This psalmist is describing, again, all the feelings that go with depression. Feelings. You know, you and I pretend that we are rational creatures, always doing the rational thing, making the rational decision. The truth is that we are, first of all, emotional beings, often using intellect to rationalize our emotional decision. Feelings are so central to who we are. Feelings, oftentimes our faith in God is based on a feeling. And what does it mean when our feelings are wackadoodle? We decide to love people because of our feelings. What does it mean when we're depressed? The truth is that our feelings always tell the truth about what's going on within us. But they don't describe reality outside. What was told me over and over again is feelings are not reality. Our feelings are just feelings. And part of what we have to do in the middle of depression is to remind ourselves that despite our feelings, that we are still loved. We are still the children of God. We may feel one way, but the truth may be different. Pardon me for relying too heavily upon Henry Nouwen, but he wrote this: you have to trust the place that's solid, the place where you can say yes to God's love even when you do not feel it. Right now, you feel nothing except emptiness and the lack of strength to choose. But keep saying, God loves me, and God's love is enough. You have to choose the solid place over and over again and return to it after every failure. You have to trust the place that's solid, the place where you can say yes to God's love even when you don't feel it. It raises an interesting question. What is the church to do with people who are depressed, who suffer from depression? I suppose we could go back to drilling holes in our skulls. That does not seem to be a useful therapy. There is a stigma that goes with depression and all mental illnesses. Typically, people would rather admit to adultery than to admit suffering from depression. And that's too bad. That's actually working against a cure for depression. What depressed people need is a place where they can be open about their struggle, where they can admit the truth and still be welcome. The other thing that occurs to me is based upon a Jewish story that I ran across years ago. And it was, there was a farmer whose wife died after a long and happy marriage. And one day, soon after, his friends stopped by and said, well, how are you doing? And he said, I can't pray anymore. My grief and my sorrow and my anger are too deep, and I simply can't pray because I'm sure God isn't listening. And his friend said, don't worry. Until you can pray, we will pray in your place. You know, depressed people, we need to know that we're welcome and accepted, and that you will keep the flame of faith burning, even when it's flickering within us. You know, I'm thankful for these Psalms of depression. The Christian life is often portrayed as being full of sunshine and butterflies, where never is heard a discouraging word. The skies are not cloudy all day. Oh, that that were true. But it is not. It is not. And for some of us, depression is a reality. And I'm grateful that it is nothing new. And I am grateful that I have a solid place on which to stand in a community of faith that will love me even when I don't feel lovable. Would you pray with me? Gracious God, thank you for loving us. Thank you that you are bigger and beyond our feelings, and that you're always there for us. In the name of Christ.